All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel. I am Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon and The Blackest Heart, both books published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. Today, I'm going to be reviewing Ellis Peters' Monk's Hood. This is book number 3 it is actually officially titled The Third Chronicle of Brother Cadfael of the Benedictine Abbey of St. Peter and St. Paul of Shrewsbury. Man, could there be any more boring masterpiece theater-esque title to a book ever than Monk's Hood? Let's read this again. Monk's Hood, the Third Chronicle of Brother Cadfael of the Benedictine Abbey of St. Peter and St. Paul at Shrewsbury. The Benedictine Abbey. It's a monk in an abbey. Oh, the excitement. The excitement. Can you feel the excitement? A monk tooling around in an abbey, gardening and doing monk things in an abbey. And I love this series. This is book 3. Maybe you saw my review of book 1, A Morbid Taste for Bones, and then maybe you saw my review of book 2, One Corpse Too Many. But I love this series. Yes, he's a monk, but weird crap happens around his abbey. Murders and such. Thievery, skullduggery, and Brother Cadfael has to solve all of these murders and things because he was once an ex-knight, an ex-Templar knight, now retired. He was a crusader knight, and he's now retired to the life of a quiet monk. And I got to tell you, in book number 1, if you followed my review of book number 1, where we find out his past, and how he just wants to just toil away in his garden and be left alone. The war is behind him. He's suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. The war is behind him. He just wants to be a monk. I relate, folks. I relate. If you followed my channel, you know I've worked in law enforcement for 14 years. Much of it in the prison, dealing with things that I just would rather not see. And as soon as I read about Brother Cadfael and his quiet life as a monk who just gardens, I was like, I relate. That's where I want to be right now. I want to retire to the English countryside and just grow flowers like Brother Cadfael of the Benedictine Abbey of St. Peter and Paul and whatever in Shrewsbury. But his life isn't all that easy because crap happens. In the first 2 novels, we find out that these all take place in the year 1138-ish or somewhere in there, and there's the war between Empress Maud and King Stephen is going through, and in the previous 2 books it sort of mowed through the town of Shrewsbury, where the abbey is, and sort of took its toll on a lot of people there. And so now we're dealing with the aftermath of that in this book. The war has moved on. It's no longer churning up things around Shrewsbury. It's sort of leapfrogged past them. But things are still going bonkers in this place. And not only that, I got to tell you, each book comes with a wonderful map of the Benedictine Abbey of St. Mary and Peter and Paul in Shrewsbury. Comes with a great map of it. It is actually the Benedictine Abbey of St. Peter and St. Paul at Shrewsbury. Anyway, what happens in this book is events take a turn for the worst. He once again, every book so far has started with our Brother Cadfael just gardening away, and then something happens. And now he's got to stop his gardening and get involved. And people kind of are a little intimidated by him because he is the only, in the abbey with the other monks, there are no other monks that were ex-crusader knights. And so they kind of all bow to his authority, as it were. So what happens is, I just read this. I'm going to read the back because it gives a really cool explanation of what's happening. Gervais Bonnel, with his wife and servants, is a guest at the Shrewsbury Abbey of St. Peter and St. Paul when he is suddenly taken ill. Luckily, the abbey boasts the services of the shrewd and kindly Brother Cadfael, a skilled herbalist. Yeah, he's put away the sword to become an herbalist. Cadfael hurries to the man's bedside, only to be confronted by two very different surprises. In Master Bonnell's wife, the good monk recognizes Richildis, whom he loved many years ago. So what happens is, Cadfael, every book we get a little bit of Cadfael's history. The dude was a womanizer. Before he became a monk, he smashed it with the hot ladies, if you know what I'm talking about. I mean, I don't want to get demonetized on here by saying exactly what he did, but he fucked chicks previous to his becoming a monk. You know, he was a crusader knight. But this time he runs into this guy who's sick, but then he finds out this wife is a lady that I once smashed. And she's still hot. Anyway, he also loved her many years ago, before he took his vows. And Master Bonnell himself has been fatally poisoned by a dose of deadly monkshood oil from Cadfael's own laboratory. So Cadfael might even be a what do you call it? A suspect in the murder. The sheriff is convinced that the murderer is Richildis' son, Edwin, who had reason aplenty to hate his stepfather, but Cadfael, guided in part by his tender concern for a woman he once was betrothed to, is certain of her son's innocent. Maybe he'd have fought her other son. Using his knowledge of both herbs and the human heart, Cadfael deciphers a deadly recipe for murder. It's a great book. I love this series. And, you know, we always talk about the covers, so let's go over that last. I love this series because the covers themselves are what sold me on it. They all are done just great. They're all done by an artist named Bass Cove, and he made them all look like these wonderful stained glass window artworks. And they all look the same. We've got the whole set here. There's 21 books in the series. And not only that, but if you can see them all here, the spines all look nice together too. So, if you want to get a great little mystery series, go ahead and get this series, the Chronicles of Brother Cadfael of the Benedictine Abbey of St. Peter and St. Paul at Shrewsbury. This is the third chronicle. 21 chronicles total. If you don't want to read the chronicles, you can actually watch the BBC production. They filmed all these. BBC, as they do with most of their English murder mysteries, they filmed this. So you can actually just dial it up on your TV and watch it. Anyway, I give Monkshood a good 8 out of 10. Great, great little mystery that you can read in one afternoon.